Hey, what's up, everyone? You're currently tuned into TBD on KCSB-FM 91.9 in Santa Barbara and netnetradio.com, Tijuana. Today, Lietoc and I are joined by longtime friend of the show, Alex Kent. Before there was a TBD in spring 2019, Alex Kent and April Gerloff, also Sylvie, cruised through the Studio A for a lowkey live in studio as Sprain, an ever-mutable sonic force. Since then, Sprain became an aggressive, one-of-a-kind performance force in LA music. They signed to the Flenser in late 2019 and came through with As Lost Through Collision in 2020, an album that met the sweet spot of Unwound's nihilism and Codeine's raw, heavy intensity. Since emerging post-COVID, Sprain's been on a rigorous road test of materials and ideas, opening with the likes of Otoboke Beaver and Dummy while taking their live show and turning it into a 97-minute double LP. The Lamb is Effigy, or 350 XOXOXOS for a spark union with my darling divine. It's out on September 1st on the Flenser. They're playing a release show on September 3rd at the Moroccan Lounge. This is actually, I believe, airing on September 3rd. But anyways, Lietoc will be there, and so should you. In fact, as this is airing. But if you're listening to this somehow before, I guess, buy tickets for the Moroccan Lounge show at 9 p.m. Anyways, Alex, thanks for joining us. How's it going, dude? It's nice to have you on the show again.
It's really good.
Thank you for having me. Yeah. It's going pretty well. How about you? How are you all doing?
Oh my goodness.
Doing well, dude.
Been a lovely day today.
Yeah, it's warming up again. I guess survived the damn hurricane and whatnot.
Yeah, what was that like? Because I wasn't here for it.
It was just another rainy day. You know what I mean?
That
really for us at least.
It was like I almost kind of stayed up a bit to see, is it gonna start? Is it gonna happen? Fell asleep, woke up at like 2 a.m. when the rain started just a bit here in Escondido, but it never ever amounted to being massive except for about an hour or two when it was coming down about like a quarter inch an hour. But nothing crazy happened. If you were in Palm Springs, you saw some damage. But
yeah, some people definitely got messed up from it, but I'd say for the most part,
it was a summer rainstorm, the kind of thing I like dreamed of, and it was nice that it came through. But it was not as heavy, and that probably is for the better.
So you were out in Portland, you said, right? Like you couldn't fly back or something. Not that you wanted to come back, but you couldn't fly back because of it or something.
Yeah, no, my flight was delayed a few days because it was supposed to pass, by the time I came back, and then I pretty much had like a super smooth flight back.
Cool.
Not very, there's no particular turbulence.
Yeah, I love to hear that, dude. Smooth flight.
Yeah.
So, what were you out there for?
I was out there. I was doing some shows with a couple friends, and I was supposed to play in Portland and in Bellingham.
This was for your like solo project, right?
Yeah. I have a project called Big Brown Cow. I don't have any of the music out, but I'm getting there. But I was playing some shows with my friend August Eliason, who lives up in the Northwest. And our Portland show had fallen through, so we just played the Bellingham one. But otherwise, it was just kind of like hanging out.
I love to hear that, dude. So how has summer been treating you? Like, what else have you been up to? You going any, like, I don't know, camping trips or, I don't know, party? Like, what were you up to this summer?
Nothing in the summer. It sucks. It's like summer in Los Angeles and in, Southern California in general is like the winter of the Midwest, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yep.
Yeah. And so I don't really do much. I don't know. Like I've just been working a lot. I have to save some money for some future projects and stuff. We're pretty much like almost entirely self-funded. So I've just kind of been working a lot. And not really I haven't even been to the beach yet. I usually try and go a few times once it gets pretty hot. But
that was a thing that I felt in Santa Barbara too. Like when I was like living there, it was like we live like a 5 minute walk to the beach, and it's like we hardly went. You know what I mean? It's like we have access to it, but it's like we never make the time to actually go, I guess, you know?
Everything's a lot less special when you live there, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Much cooler and easily romanticized when you that's how I felt when I was in the Northwest. I was like, man, this is an incredible area. And it is, but it's also like people's home. And
yeah, definitely.
They're all the guys I was with were like, what are you talking about? This sucks.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But that's kind of what I've been up to.
Nice, dude. And you guys just wrapped up a tour a month or two ago at this point?
Yeah, I guess it was that recent. It was in June. That tour was in June. Yeah.
How was the major gig there, the Flenser showcase that happened at Oblivion Access? Was that the first time you were getting to meet a few of the other label mates there?
I had talked to some of them online before, like, but it was like the first time like meeting some of them in person. But to be honest, it was kind of like really stressful. I mean, it was really fun, but like as far as like the socialization goes, like I didn't really extend. I'm a bit like reserved and kind of shy at first. And then I just become like a monster as soon as I'm comfortable with people. But there were most of the people I hadn't really like gotten past the first, like, you know, because I was only hanging out with them for a couple hours. So it was like, oh, hey, you're this guy. Oh, nice to meet you, you know. But I did get to see my friends in Elizabeth Color Wheel. Like,
oh, hell yeah.
Oh, sick, dude.
Are super tight. And same with Kyle. And obviously Kyle's like our BFF. So we all like hung out, and that was really, really fun. And I met Madeline, midwife, and she's like super sweet, really kind. And we hung out with Catherine Moore again, and she's really great.
Yeah.
And then just saw some more people. But I think I was more like, oh, fuck, I haven't seen my friends in like almost, you know, probably more than a year at this point.
Yeah.
And I want to hang out with those people more than just like, I don't know, meet whoever.
Yeah, I feel that for sure. Rather use it as more of like a reunion to like, see your close homies and do fun stuff with. So I guess were there any other like highlights to like the tour or anything? Like any cool like DIY bands you guys played with and whatnot?
Oh yeah, we played one of my favorite bands with, I don't like to pick favorites, but one band that stuck out to me that I liked was this band Flooding. I think y'all are probably familiar with them. Yeah,
they're really good.
Yeah, they're really good and like nice, like humble people. So I liked them. And then we played with Kyle's friends, Sympathy Pain.
Nice.
They were really nice. Everyone was really nice, you know. I didn't really have any run-ins with anyone who I didn't really get along with.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And then the Austin show like was really cool, but I think that like where we played at was this venue called the Mohawk. And like there's an indoor stage and an outdoor stage. So they kind of had this ridiculous showcase set up where like one band would play inside and then another band would play outside, and they'd like barely overlap. So it was kind of like people were like getting torn apart by
Oh, I see. That's a bummer.
That's the worst.
And it was like 110 degrees inside the venue. Like,
Jesus.
It was really, really hot. People were fainting and stuff.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
I didn't hear about anything, you know, long-term medical problems happening for people.
That's good to hear. Yeah.
I didn't see any major like tragedy at Oblivion Access headlines, but
no one died.
Underreported is pretty staggering. That's not good that they're doing it. It shows in 110 degrees there with nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think, you know, no one can control how hot it's going to be necessarily, but it did seem like, okay, well, actually, I can't talk about that. You know? It was very hot. I'll say that.
Yeah.
And when Sprain played, we were just, you know, really, really loud and
just dripping.
Totally dripping. That was really cool. Our set was cut short because
that's a bummer
for us played overtime and then didn't take their stuff off the stage. So, it is what it is.
Damn. SMH, dude, happens.
But did you have better fit? Did you have better drip than them? Would you say? That's what matters.
Alex was rocking the classic flannel. Am I right, dude? The classic Alex Kent flannel and the skinny jeans and the Vans, dude.
Skinny jeans.
I feel like you wear skinny jeans. I don't know.
Thomas is making some wild accusations.
Maybe you're just a skinny guy, so they look skinnier on you.
Oh, Jesus.
Thomas. Really?
Sorry, I'm just.
I guess I only wear two. I only own 2 pairs of pants because I'm really broke. And then whenever I have money, we'll spend it on music gear or recording projects or alcohol.
Yeah.
But now I really have to buy new pants because you've humiliated me in front of them.
What if we just if anybody's listening and they want to give Alex new pants, you should just throw them on stage instead of a bra or something. While Alex is playing his whistle or something on stage, just throw some pants on stage or something.
Yeah. Instead of panties or.
Yeah, exactly.
Those two.
Something that Alex.
A pair of chinos.
Yeah.
Not a pair of Banana Republic chinos.
Nah.
Yeah, but no. Do we have better drip than them? They have pretty good drip. But we have Sylvie and April who are
yeah.
And Clint are more casual. So
one big thing I've noticed is the regalia of a Sprain show has been increasingly it's on an upward trajectory. We're at the suit and tie formal event.
Oh, true. I forgot that you guys rock the suit and tie. That's sick.
Yeah, but I don't know. I can't justify it anymore. I don't know if that's maybe for, I don't know, we're not we're not the bad seeds. So it's why are we doing this? Yeah. It was almost like a Halloween costume or something, but yeah, I don't know. And plus everyone in the band we're so disorganized about certain things. I would show up in a suit and Clint just had a red shirt and some random
yeah.
It wasn't necessary. I don't even know if we can really say it was suit and tie. It was more vaguely children dressing in their parents' clothes. More
Yeah.
Yeah. I think those days are gone.
It happens, dude. It's time to move on.
Yeah. Right.
We're maturing.
I kind of started to remove my clothes more recently in the past few shows.
Oh, on the stage?
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's kind of going in the opposite direction.
That's kind of sick, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are on a more clothes, and then I don't know. I was thinking of a graph or something. I don't know.
Yeah, we went to the.
You peaked, and now you're coming back down. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's only one way to go.
Yeah. How was that? How was the couple big shows you guys did with Have a Nice Life and stuff?
Well, they were good. Yeah. Everyone there is super nice. The guys who play in Have a Nice Life, who just play are session players basically, or touring members, are all really nice and cool. Mm-hmm. And Dan and Tim are really sweet and kind. Cool. And one of my favorite moments from those shows was Dan had flown his wife and kids out, and I was watching them play. I don't know. I'm not that familiar with Have a Nice Life's music, to be honest. But I was watching them play one of their more up tempo numbers that really had the crowd riled up, and I was watching Dan's kids watch him on stage.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Dude, that's really cute dance. Yeah, it was really heartwarming. And really won me over in a lot of ways. I mean, not that I didn't need to be won over, but I was all right, yeah, this is pretty incredible. Just this moment here. I think we played really well, but I also think that audience, Have a Nice Life's popularity is so substantial that it's that audience is bizarre. It was full of. I mean, I'm happy when anyone comes to see us play, but it was there were mostly people much younger than me at that show. I felt
wow.
And I'm 25. I'm not that old, but I felt like an old man at that show.
Yeah.
At a few of the shows, because their fan base is just continues to like, they have like this like cyclical.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, on TikTok or whatever, kids are like finding out about Have a Nice Life. And
Have a Nice Life is just like one of those bands at this point. You know what I mean? That like, yeah, younger people are just going to keep finding them, I guess. You know, it's like a constant like flow.
It's fine because like, Alex, we're about the same age there, and I did not get to it until they did the cassette release. And it took like about 2 or 3 tracks to listen. I'm like, I don't know about this. And then I get to the 4th one, I'm like, oh, they've won me over. And yet also never, because of the age I got to it and the fact that, like, I was not heavily online enough to be like, here's the Discard album with this crazy cover. It was more like I really just respected the hell out of it, and I loved it as tape music and got that from it. And it's just something I'd love to own, but it's not like an album I could worship like that. But I just am so fascinated by the fact that so many young kids are still coming out for it.
Yeah.
And they're getting to it so much sooner than ever like I did. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that music really like it. I don't know. It just like, it really strikes a chord with people. And their fans are like really intent on it. And also like, I had a lot of respect for watching Dan and Tim at the level they are with the, like the intensity of which the fans like view them as people. I had a lot of respect for them to like always like sit down and like meet this entire line of kids like after each show.
Wow.
Oh, that's really cool.
For them to just be like, okay, like, I don't want to talk to all these fucking lunatics. But they did it after every show. And granted, it wasn't that many shows, but yeah, I mean, they were just really good guys, you know. And Madeline was there and she played. And
Madeline's sick. Yeah.
Super kind. Yeah. We're definitely like the odd band. Like, that's usually the case. But, you know, in some of these shows we played, I did feel like the audience was perplexed, you know, even if they were familiar with our previous music, they were just like, what the fuck, this sucks.
It's honestly like kind of funny seeing that. Like, I remember at that show, I was at like the one at the Fonda or something, and I just remember like people in the crowd, like you're like telling them like shut up or something like that, and me and Jess are just like, that's good shit, dude. You know what I mean? That's funny. And there's like
being disrespectful.
Yeah, no, definitely. And there's like people in the crowd that are like, oh my God, like he's like yelling at, you know what I mean? Like, and I was just like, yeah, it was just funny. You could tell that people were like perplexed, or like we saw a couple of videos that just came up on like TikTok or something of like people being like, what is this band? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some where people send them to me. I'm not on TikTok, and you know, I don't spend too much time on a lot of social media, or as little time as I can, you know.
Yeah.
But people will send me videos and stuff, and it's always like people like believing pretty sincerely that like I'm having some type of like meltdown.
Yeah, I know, dude. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. Like people think you're having a legit like mental breakdown on the stage.
Yeah, and then my bandmates are just like exploiting me, basically.
Yeah.
You know, no, that's not the case. I mean, it's a performance, but
yeah.
Dude,
that's what I love about the space and the ethos of one of the Sprain shows is that specifically watching that evolution from like a 2019 Bico Garage show to now at Permanent Records Roadhouse. There's much more confidence in terms of that. And also the audiences that are coming is like, oh, it's a Sprain show, not, oh, Otoboke Beaver's playing and Sprain's on the bill. Like, I'm the one person that's coming up for Sprain because of that second case. But yeah, it's increasingly been really beautiful to watch. I think more crowds that know the music and know what's going to happen coming and being willful with it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's a wonderful thing. I'm super grateful to anyone who comes and, you know, listens to our music and supports us.
Hell yeah. Well, I guess we can start moving into some of like these other questions that we have here, but yeah, we kind of just like wanted to ask too. Can you like take us back to like your main imperatives of like what pushed you towards like DIY music and just like, you know, what in general was the MO for like kicking off Sprain in the first place? But I mean, I guess we can start with just like your DIY stuff. Like how did you get involved in DIY? Like what drew you to like going to shows with like 5 people and stuff? You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't that's just like the only way I could do it. You know, I didn't have any other, you know, at the level people are making music that I'm at, you know, and to this, you know, like to this day, it's still very much that way. And I don't really see that changing, you know, for a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
I was just going to say, it's just like the only way I know how to do anything. I mean, that's what I grew up in Boise, Idaho, and like there's very few professional venues or even like, you know, makeshift venues. Like it's all houses and stuff out there. So I like grew up as like a little brat, like going there really, I don't know. I just, you know, got really into music as a kid and I got really touched by it and knew I really wanted to do it. But I was so young that there was no, there's no way I could play at like some bar or whatever. So the only place you could do it was you just like round up your friends from middle school or high school and play like someone's house. It was usually like Robbie Kulam's house. He was really, really supportive and kind to us. He's kind of like a legendary dude that owns this house in Caldwell, Idaho, which is like maybe 20-30 minutes from Boise. And his house is called Android House. He's kind of a legend. Yeah, I mean, that guy gave me my first shows. I guess that's kind of the way I got into it.
I never knew about the Idaho stuff off the bat, that you were from Idaho, or that, because also does that explain a bit of the connection that you had done with Joyful Youth at the start there when you were looking for a label to put stuff out on, at least demo wise?
Well, Joyless Youth is not from Idaho. But no, I never even thought about labels. I was just like, I'm just gonna put the thing out. Like I didn't really care. I mean, at that point, like the reason why the music was getting made was different, and I was just kind of making it just to do something. And I had no like grand plans for it, but I was like recovering from some like mental episode I had like a few months prior to like recording a lot of those songs. And so some of the songs were like written when I was like 17 or 18 and then released maybe I must have been 19 or something like that. Or maybe I was old, like 20, but most of them had been written and were leftovers from a previous product I had been working on. But I didn't have any plans for the thing. I put a couple singles out on Bandcamp, and then Chris, who runs Joyless Youth, just messaged us and was like, "Hey, I'll do tapes if you want." And I to be honest, I ignored him because I was like,
"Oh, really?"
I was like, no one cares about this. Like, I'm like, I don't know. It was just, I guess it goes to show like my amateur music making process at that point. Like I didn't even think he was serious. I thought he was like fucking with me.
Wow.
And then he responded like a month later and had like done mock-ups for it. And I was like, oh, this guy is serious. Like we should do it. Because I didn't even think I was gonna, like, before that, when I had been making music in high school and middle school and I was putting projects out, because I've been putting projects out for a while, I had never made physical copies. I had only ever fucking put it on Bandcamp, and then like no one forgot about it. So
and
Chris,
again, a lot of those noise projects, I'm assuming it's just like they're just noise, or it's like, again, just kind of small, post-hardcore worship, other stuff that is just on your mind at the time. It was just to get an energy out.
Well, I didn't make any noise, to be honest. Most of what, I don't know, I think maybe there was like some like glitch in the audio or whatever, but I didn't make any noise. I mean, I don't even know if I'd call it punk. It was just like shitty. It was just shitty music that
working on some slaw.
Yeah. It was like, really atrocious, like totally humiliating music.
That's sick.
Kind of like the first two Sprain releases are really bad at humiliating too. But they're a little bit better than this. But yeah, I mean, that's how I met Chris. I was just like, no, like I'm not going to work with you. Like, who are you? Who is this guy? Like, I don't even. And then he hit me back up, and I was like, oh, he's serious. He's not like trying to like belittle me. I guess I was just insecure about it.
Yeah.
And he ended up being like the sweetest guy in the world. Yeah.
Dude, Chris is a chiller.
Yeah. He's awesome. And he's still going. And I really believe in his project. He has like he like runs it totally professional. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Absolute shout out to him. I've got like an unpublished like interview with him sitting on my phone. Just an absolute chiller because he just legit cares about the DIY of like, look, I saw some bands I like. I want to put them out. I can do that. And if you're listening to this, you have that power to do that. You got to pull some strings. It takes a little bit of cash or getting cassettes or doing whatever. But when you put the time, effort, and you show up to pay that in full and prove to somebody that you're not a joke about doing it, it does pay off. It looks good. And that's how we got here.
Also, like,
I was just going to say, Chris has no incentive other than the fact that he he really cares about music.
Yeah, for sure. It's also,
I have like endless respect for that. Sorry, Thomas, I keep interrupting you.
Yeah, dude, Chris is sick. He even like flew out for that one show at like the barbershop. I thought that was like so crazy that he like flew out for that shit. You know what I mean? He like cared. Yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
He just like cares so much about
it. Yeah.
At least just before we get into another topic here, said first two Sprain releases, we're giving a thumbs down here to, are we moving past the slowcore era? Are we done with As Lost Through Collision? Should we just burn the tapes? Get it done? I'm not burning my cassettes, but
yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think my biggest regret regarding those releases is that like I hadn't like become confident enough in like what we were doing. And I didn't really have any, because in Idaho, the bands I was in, I didn't have it. I was never in a band. I only had like my band, right?
Yeah.
And like a revolving cast of like whoever was there to do it. And I took it really seriously. I didn't know how any of that shit worked. Like I totally taught myself. And I was involved in like music education. So I learned how to play music. But as far as like logistics of like running a band or like managing people, putting music out, I had to learn it all. And I was still kind of like learning and catching up by the time like the EP and Collision were getting worked on. And I really I never wanted, like I was making some of the music that is on Lamb or Lamb is Effigy back during, because I always have shit lying around that gets, condensed into like contemporaneous musical songs or whatever. And, but I was just like, no, like, who am I kidding? Like, I need to stick to this, like, this like rooted thing and like build up, I can build up to that point, but I need to start with like a foundation that's like rooted in other stuff. And then it really bothered me because most of the feedback I had received from other people was that it was like not terrible music, but that it was like not particularly unique, and like that like really fucking annoyed me because that's in my opinion, there's no point in like starting a band and just starting in a genre and being like, okay, I'm going to make this type of music and it's going to sound like this handful of artists. And those are my regrets. Like it took me a while to get over it. Like Lamb I don't really think Lamb sounds like any other band. Like it definitely is a totally unique project that, we worked really hard to do. And there was like cognizance regarding, excommunicating like too much influence from one particular pool. But those first two releases are basically just a big waste of time for that reason.
Do you like dislike the, I guess, association you get with like Duster and stuff?
I mean, we played with Duster. I don't know. Like, I think like any association with Duster probably should have ended after that first EP.
Yeah.
And More so than Duster, like a lot of that music was actually really influenced by the band Low, which I think is like a much better band that has aged way better. And like, I don't know why. I think just like there was like some kind of like as much as I'd hate to admit it, there's like a certain like adolescent slant to the first Sprain release. I think the lyrics are pretty good and don't really reflect that. But as far as like the music goes, it just sounds like just some of the like indie rock crap I grew up on when I was like living in Boise, Idaho, and like surrounded with people that were like making more like palatable music. And then I had like a big shift, but I still felt like I needed to record those songs. But yeah, we played with Duster, and I mean, like, I don't think they're ever going to hear this, but it's not super polite to. At the time, I think during that day, I was really excited about it, but I don't think I've ever been turned off by a band I used to really like quicker than after we played with them.
Oh, really? Wow. Why?
Yeah. Because it was just like a really good template of like how not to proceed, how not to get old. You know, they were like, they were nice enough, but not really. Honestly, they were like very. Maybe they were mad because we sounded like them too much at that point or whatever. But, and then the music they put out, after their reformation has been, I think, really like just very settled, very. It's not really pushing, So it's like, it's fine. They can do whatever they want, but for me personally, I was like that. They stopped being like inspirations to me, or like role models at that point. And I think I was like either 19 or 20 when we played with them. So
that makes sense.
That's wild to hear. I'm taking it all in. Anyways, who's your favorite Numero reissue right now? You like those karate tapes? Big fan of that first one.
Right now. I mean, some of the Duster stuff is still really good.
I still love the 1975 EP, but that's the End Vagalum. But those are the only two things I ever, for some reason, like, that's it. Don't know why.
I think the stuff is pretty good, but then I don't know, like their contemporary music sounds like it's like attempting to like insert itself forcibly into like the zeitgeist of like modern day like indie pop bullshit, which like all sucks. Like it already sucks. There doesn't need to be any more of it. And then like Duster, a 30-year-old band just comes out of nowhere and they're like, we'll do this too, and we're like 50 years old. I don't know. It's just like it's very like when you're like drunk uncle comes down the stairs and like wants to like ruin your like weed smoking party or
Yeah, dude, I don't know. Like the new Duster stuff I feel like hasn't really resonated with me either. Like I don't know, it just doesn't really seem that good. You know what I mean?
I think that's part of it. It's like you bring up Low, and another question I wanted to ask briefly. It's like, what is your Low album this season? Because literally every like 6 to 8 months, I get a different Low album. And I'm like, oh, this is it for a couple months. That's a band that over years, over like cassettes or CDs I've collected, it gets just better. Just that's
they're
last me for.
They're really timeless. Like I'm a really big fan of that band, and like I said, I mean that was more the band that was like the impetus. Like okay, like I can make music in my room on my own. I just can't blast my full stack or whatever, but I can still make music that I care about that's powerful. And especially like the lyrical topics of Low, like were resonating with me more than like the Duster stuff. Like it wasn't like adolescent talking points. They're talking about like shame and guilt and like their relationship with the religion they're a part of and raised in. Like I grew up Catholic, which is like similarly strict in terms of like I don't know, like religious persecution.
There's guilt. I knew people in the housing co-ops that Thomas and I lived in that were like, I've got Catholic guilt, and I'm like, okay. I could not resonate or quite dip into that, but the mention of that phrase it was always there in ways that it showed up.
Yeah.
I think it's like I'm a little weary of like stepping my toes into like saying that it's the guilt. I just think that guilt is like it's like kind of cliche. Like it almost makes me cringe a little bit. Like I think that's just like condensing like a nearly infinitesimal, like really complicated network of problems and neuroses like into like one word, and it just doesn't really make sense. But I totally understand. At the same time, I don't know, like you can't really be raised, like now that I was raised Catholic and I went to Catholic school for 9 years, I don't know what it's like to be like a kid in any other regard. So it's like, that's all I know. And like, maybe I would still be guilty or like fucked up if I wasn't, I'm sure it contributed, but it's not like, it's too like, nothing's like entirely black and white like that, not to, like, say that I agree with the Catholic Church or defend their actions, pretty deplorable actions.
The Catholic Church is
quite a few.
Yeah, insane.
But yeah, I mean, low encapsulates like more of like something that resonated with me more than Duster did. Although Duster was like a definite influence. I also think just less people, I don't know, like less people who are like on the internet being annoying about music are like gonna bring up Duster or gonna bring up Low as opposed to Duster. Like Duster, big like internet band,
Yeah,
Low is kind of something you can't get rid of.
Low is something that like I'd found in like $2 bins. I've paid like dirt cheap prices for some Low, and then I've gone and sought out like the Transmission promo cassette and got that as well, just because had to get it. And I listened to that probably a month or so ago again, and I'm like, this might be my favorite of the Vernon Yard stuff they do, because I thought the Transmission cover is so solid as it is. It's just, it worked. They could own that song. That's an incredible template of a song that a lot of bands could just take with and run. But it's the room tone piece, the final hidden track there. That to me is like really, it's like this band could do whatever they wanted, and it was gorgeous. And you wanted to sit there and just listen. And even I saw them at Big Years in 2022.
That's sick.
And felt that same thing. They were going through some like real particular cuts that almost in hindsight really feel like a sense of finality and a sense of, if the project goes, then okay. And it is very beautiful to see, especially because also they did Sunflower in honor of Ukraine, and that was a month after the war started, and it was just, the feeling was palpable.
Yeah. Have you seen Low live, Alex?
No, I never saw them. Very regrettable. I'm not sure I ever got the chance to, but I never saw them.
Yeah.
But I also really appreciate how that band kind of did the opposite of what I was critiquing or like complaining about Duster, where like their last couple of records are like totally different. Like they're just constantly pushing forward and like creating new stuff. So I have a lot of respect for that. Even when you're like in your later 50s and you've been a band for 30, odd years, and you're still putting out some of your most challenging, like.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And one of the only bands that can put out a Christmas album and it still slaps.
Yeah.
So good. Quickly want to do this before we talk any bit about the album here. So, Alex, when you did move to the LA area, were you coming out here for school at all?
Yeah, I was. That's the only reason I moved.
And did you go to CalArts?
Yeah.
There we go. Can you, in any detail, talk about your time at CalArts? If I'm to get any info correct, so you did some performing work classes that are performing art stuff. That was really the MO?
No, I didn't really take any like performance-based classes.
All right. But can you just shine a light on, what like how CalArts was, because we keep talking to CalArts people right now. We've had like 2 other.
Yeah,
CalArts
it's honestly
folks
wild how many people from on the show that are all CalArts alums. But anyways,
yeah. I mean, it was like an immense privilege to go there for someone like myself. I'm really, really fortunate. I was also fortunate enough to receive some scholarships and some help and not go too deep into student debt.
We love to hear that.
So I have it like super good in that respect.
Yeah.
It's there's like a lot of good things about it and a lot of bad things. But I met most of the people I've played music with in LA at campus. So it's like, I mean,
nice.
Like a lot of this is, I can only really chalk it up to having gone there. So, and I think about that a lot. It's very humbling. It's like, okay, well, if it wasn't for this, I wouldn't be doing what I am doing now. So I have, other people to really be grateful for. And everything that I do is, standing on the shoulders of people that are much smarter and greater than I am. I just take all of it.
So what was, I guess, like your, I don't know, major or whatever?
I mean, they have a program there called Musical Arts Program.
Okay.
Man.
I was in it. And so it's basically like a catch-all phrase for like, I like to think of it as like the kind of thing where it's like you're a composer, or songwriter, but you don't have, like, you couldn't pass the theory requirements basically to get in there. So it's like you weren't like educated traditionally well enough to be like in a performing composing program, but you were like still valuable enough to let in, or you had money.
Again, there's still, if it's not for the money and the value, it's like you're still chasing after a new music paradigm, or you're still going in that realm, sort of.
Yeah, I mean, you could think of it like that, but I mean, to be frank, like the people who were in the program were, the program was looked down upon by the rest of the school.
Is it really?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think people think of that program as like, I kind of see where they're coming from, but I don't know. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. Also, like, some of the most talented people I know from that school were in that program. So all the other stuffy, like, affluent programs can fuck off. Kiss my ass.
There we go.
Yeah, for sure. What the hell? That's like so weird that people would look down on that. That's like such a weird, like,
it would make more sense to you. Yeah, I'm trying to be polite and also try not to like out myself as like a complete fool,
No, I know what you mean. I feel like it's kind of like, in a way, like the people that, like, at least like a UCSB equivalent or something. If you're like a STEM or engineering major doing hard research and like all this stuff, and then you're like looking down on the people that are studying like English or something like that. You know what I mean? In a way where it's like, oh, we put all this time and like we had to meet all of these like way harder requirements and stuff to like get in here, and you kind of just like got in by like writing essays or something. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there's still work to be done in that program, but I just, it was like, I mean, of course there's always like, like a culture of like supremacy in the arts, like, that's just like part of people being around each other, making work, unfortunately. And so I was like, I was like the lowest of the low, like below the poverty line in regards to musical education at that school, which is still very, very good. And like I said, very, very lucky and fortunate and privileged to have gone there.
Yeah, definitely, dude.
Again, when you were there, like specifically, were you coming up in your mind though because so much of what really took me back with the 2019, the 2021 Sprain shows and the tracks from that time was like, there was a composer element that was there that I was latching onto because I didn't know where things were going to go. And the pieces, especially just on a performance scale, really, really excelled there. on vinyl, it was great, but it was so much about that energy. And I'm just curious, like, was at least in CalArts, were you really thinking like, I can transform some of the stuff I'm doing in these classes, and this is going to be the performance. This is going to be Llama's Effigy.
Well, I don't think about myself as like a composer. Like I think about, I mean, you could think about like, I don't know, like, I guess like sometimes it seems like not to throw you under the bus here or whatever, but sometimes people will say like use the term composer instead of like artist or musician to like imply some level of like intellectualism with the music. I actually think what we do is like a lot of times very simple and actually like more like cavemen, like banging rocks together. But it is like, yeah, I mean, like there's like there is like the songs are long and kind of like cinematic. I do. And I've always wanted more.
Yeah, to push back on like this idea of a composer, because to me, the stuff that especially now I hear is composer music or even think of, you're right. It's kind of just caveman simplicity. You're just, okay, you can do that. And you just see where it goes, the chance logic or stuff. And that's what I think that openness or just treating as that's where a lot of the fun comes from. But getting it separated from the intellectual stuff and like, it has to be this notion. This is where it's going to be conducted. That's a long journey ahead to do. And in no ways do I even really try to get it or want to push it there. I want to bring composer back to the caveman as well.
Yeah. Well, I just think like also like the just like, I don't know, like compose like chamber music and stuff was always like just really out of reach for people of the working class, right? Like it's all like funded by these grants or whatever, and you're like to put on a show with an orchestra of like 130 people is like a hugely expensive endeavor. Not to mention rehearsals, conductor, and the space and all this other bullshit that goes into it. It's just like not like those kind of commissions are like, it's just a different way, a different world. Like I'm like a more of like a working class musician. Like I you know, I have playing broken guitars and trying to make music that is, in my opinion, every bit as like ambitious or harmonically rich or whatever as like, I don't know. Or maybe not. Actually, I'll take that back. Like my work, maybe not in particularly, I can't comment on it, but I know a lot of rock musicians who I see as being as ambitious or rappers as complicated and insane as something like, I don't know, Krzysztof Penderecki. And I'm a great admirer of his, but I just think that like the way that educated music culture is like, this is like music for like learning and education. And this, on the other hand, is like music from the heart rather than just like the brain, you know. But a lot of that stuff, almost all that stuff I love and is totally from the heart. But the way it's taught and talked about in school culturally, like Enos Xenakis or whatever, is like, oh, it's like this mathematical John Cage or whatever. And it's just like, okay, well, like I could also make some kind of thing like John Cage and it would just be experimental, like noise music, right? But it wouldn't be this, you know, mathy genius, whatever. I mean, it would just be like post-Cagean, whatever. And all that, like, I'm a big Cage admirer too. I just don't like the way that historically it's treated like it's like this educated man's music. It's the thinking man's music, you know, while this rock music is just kind of like idiots in a cave somewhere.
even playing off that, it's like I read some of the Kyle Gann writings on Cage, and like what I love about his book on 433 is how much he gets in the weeds of like Cage is like in poverty. He's not doing this for he just has like a major like mental like hurdle he's trying to get past for kicks that he wants to. But also Cage's father was an American inventor. There was like a strong American tinkering aspects that was just there, that just seemed to be in a tradition that really didn't matter about orchestra music. He just liked to fuck around. And that to me was where I'm like, let's go. And like when you bring up rappers, I had just finished reading a book on DJ culture. which was called like groove music or something. And again, they talk at the end, like in the aughts, as the turntable shows up in orchestras, but it only shows up in like a few circumstances because only a few people, these really dedicated DJs, have spent years to perfect being able to play the vinyl in a particular way to, create these sounds. But like you look at Grandmaster Flash's work and the one vinyl he has that's released on Sugar Hill in 81, that's just great. That's just him playing a ton of different records, doing his little theoreticals and quick mixing. But it's composer stuff. And it's just like, again, him just being inventive. And I love that. And that's like a working class guy in the Bronx who just did it for the love of it.
Yeah, totally. And I always have like much more respect for that than like these like students who are like, like making this like all new music, basically. Like it's like all very post-Cajun. And like a lot of that stuff is great and I like it, but I can tell when the individual behind the music has this kind of like educated, like affluent class, almost like it's like classist music,
Yeah.
It sucks. Fuck that shit. Like I like rock music, but I like weird rock music. So I like a bunch of rock music. I like all sorts of stuff, and like I think it's just there's no like liking one type of music above another or valuing it is really stupid. And it's all just sound.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Thomas, are we ready to do it? To get in a tad bit with the Lamb of Effigy here?
Yeah, let's do it. All right. So post 2020, where exactly did you, April, Sylvie, and Max intend to go with Sprain? Like where were you trying to go like post, I guess like your EP and stuff?
Post 2020. Do you mean, is that before Collision or after in regards to your question?
Let's say around, Collision, the release, the first quietest piece there, because that was the biggest attention I remember seeing, just kind of like emerging re-2021 even. Where were you guys thinking? Because again, the album dropped dead ass in the pandemic.
Yeah.
And it was like, me and Thomas bought it. I think the cassettes are about to sell out and the vinyl maybe has a few left. So.
Well, the vinyl got reissued.
Oh, it did, sick.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we were like just trying to figure out if we were even going to be able to be a band. I don't think anyone knew. Like I knew I was like going to keep going probably, despite if people left or not. And except for when it was like super hardcore lockdown mode, we rehearsed and wrote.
Oh, really?
Together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we wouldn't go out if it was like, don't do it. Like no one's going out right now. We weren't selfish about it, but when it was like, okay, you can go out, we did. And we would rehearse 2 or 3 times a week for,
that's sick.
5 hours a day. And, I wanted to do a recording. We had written some of the songs and the plan was just to keep going. And I don't know, like I never start a project with like some type of like vision. And I am not someone who can like fulfill like long-term goals. If I like to say, okay, I'm going to do this way. And like for me, that's like, it's like artistically handicapping yourself in a way. Because I've always been more open to like accidents happening and like just things like getting fucked up and me like changing the way I think about stuff and being open to things changing and just kind of letting like, I don't know, things enter the subconscious and try and get your like ego out of the way. Even though I have a lot of ego, it's hard to get out of the way, but like that's when all the best, things come. Like I'll spend weeks or months like trying to write something and I fail every time and I get really frustrated with myself. And then as soon as I give up and I just stop caring and then something really amazing happens, and that's the thread that's always worth following. So I guess to answer the questions, I don't really know. Like we didn't have a plan. I knew I wanted to make stuff, but I kind of felt like things were falling apart and that there was a chance we might never play again. So the only thing I knew was that I wanted it to be I wanted to absolve my sins for the previous two releases, which like really to this day, like I'm really not proud of and I'm kind of embarrassed about. And I wanted to like right my wrongs with this record. That was the big goal. And there are like themes of absolution on the record, not necessarily in reference to this particular regret I have, but just in regrets in general that must have subconsciously seeped in there. But you know, we set time to record and then Max left. And so right then he just left. As soon as we booked time to record, he was out. And I was like, okay, well, seems like the beginning of the end. Is the pandemic still going on? Am I going to start a band in the pandemic? You know? And then April had this friend, this guy, just some guy, Clint Dodson, who we had gone to school.
Yeah.
And he joined, and like at first I was like, oh my God, this guy plays like in a way I would never have really expected myself to gel with. And I was a little worried about it. Like I was kind of losing like control, but
oh really?
It's kind of like taught a valuable in like collaborating with people.
Yeah.
Because like I think that a big part of the reason why the record sounds as unique as it does is that it's like his approach to percussion really changed the way we played the songs that were already written, and then the possibility of more songs. And so that's kind of a long-winded answer, but that's basically.
Oh, no. We were going to ask about Clint, I think, because I've seen, you know, Thomas and I have seen probably like 3 or 4 of the 2021 to present shows. And there's one piece, I think it had been nicknamed Radio or something of that nature. It has a particular drum moment in it. It's just Clint playing a couple of, and there's a lot of different fills and breaks that Clint does in that piece though. And again, like, was that like another kind of like, what were some of the big pieces on the album that came because of Clint and also got totally reworked because of Clint? Like one of each.
Well, every single piece we did that we did with Max got reworked.
Oh wow.
Every single one. And I was like, okay, well, like Max's, like you can still hear Max's influence. Yeah. Not that anyone would know except for us, but you can still hear Max's influence on some of the parts because it's not that we changed the song. It's just that we like reinterpreted them through this guy's lens, and then he would add stuff and ended up making it a lot better. And he would like basically take maybe ideas of Max's playing as impetus and then embellish them or like mutate them until they were kind of non-recognizable. And then we started to write other songs, and it was just like, okay, like, I don't know, the floodgates are kind of open. Like the dude's just kind of an animal. And, just like, I don't know, like it's just the kind of things where it's like, okay, like you hear people who make really amazing stuff and you're like, oh, how would they even do that? Like it all just kind of happened by accident, you know, like I don't really remember. It was just like he tells me to go fuck myself on the drums, and I say the same thing back to him, either with my words or with the guitar. Yeah. That was good enough, you know. That was
in particular, one thing at least I noticed, not just from the live shows, and it does translate super well here, is it's the guitar feedback between you and Sylvie has been cranked up to God knows whatever at this point, whatever number you want to put there. But I love it. I'm living for that. And it's so great to hear that play go between the drums as well. I can see what you mean.
Yeah, we kind of, that's what I mean. Like, I'm not trying to, you know, be too masturbatory about the whole thing, but we play like we play differently like than other bands do. You know, like it just, the way we play is just intrinsically different from even the people that, you know, we're kind of like drawing from or like trying to emulate. Like, just like people don't really play guitar like Sylvie. You know, I don't know. If anything, I like, you know, I'm probably the most derivative bad musician in the band. Everyone else is kind of like, I kind of hijacked their talents to like serve my goals. Yeah. But yeah, like me and Sylvie have very telekinetic, like we've been playing together, I think for like 7 years. So
that's crazy.
We've been, yeah. And at this point, I don't really like offer her a lot of feedback. I just kind of let whatever happens. And when the dust settles, there's something there, you know? Yeah.
Dude, Sylvie is so fucking good at guitar. Like Sylvie's like insane at guitar. It's fucking wild.
Yeah,
So,
I know. I hope
come on,
she
get your solo project. You're invited to TBD, Sylvie. We'll give you some snacks.
Yeah, we gotta get Sylvie on soon.
Yeah, I'm sure she would be elated and really grateful to do that. And she's also a great person. So.
And we had April's project again. A big shout out for April for doing that on April 30th on my birthday. Oh my god,
that was a crazy show with that was April, Kyle from Drowse,
Johnny.
and A McPhee. Yeah, that was insane.
Yeah, that's awesome. Drone show. Yeah, I mean, April's playing on the record too. Like, if anything, the guitars are not really doing anything melodic, and like April's kind of the melody in a lot of the record. Like, in the song we put out today, we think so ill of you. Like, I don't know. I've been playing the song for 2 years. I don't know what's going on in the guitar parts. Sounds like a bunch of like guitars, bickering, and then April's just kind of like rolling her eyes and like playing the bass. But yeah, like and it's also because like me and Sylvie's tones and registers are like we're always playing in the same thing. Almost it sounds like one crazy guitar, and April's below that and has a lot of space as like the only like bass register instrument to like really play like melodic stuff. So she does, and like me and Sylvie like are kind of generating texture, a lot more of the time.
Nice. Yeah. That makes for an incredible recipe right there. Especially just because it's a great way of being able to have the guitar on the album, but then totally take it out of the context. And it's like, okay, no, it's just texture. We're just going for this. And I think it was said, I don't know if it was in the post trash piece today, the 17 instruments that you play on the album, and the banjo's behind you, the hammered dulcimer's right behind. You had shown that to us before we hit record. What was your favorite piece there to play? And if at all, like guitar wise, what was the guitar that you're like, I love this guy for life? And what was your favorite pedal there to use?
I only use like 2 guitars because I have them for that record. I have them set up like very specifically in secret tunings.
Yep, that makes sense.
All of my parts on the record are there, so I just use the 2 guitars, and one's like a Squier Jaguar I've had for years, and the other one was like Eastwood High Flyer reissue. And I don't know. I don't really feel like I like the High Flyer. That one's really cool. But they're almost like not even guitars. And I'm a really like very like caveman guitar player. Like I kind of struggle. Like I'm not very dexterous. So I leave all that up to Sylvie, and she has a really, really cool guitar. This Hagstrom like Mark IV or something.
Yeah, that thing's sick.
It's just like the gnarly, like really fucked up, brutal sounding guitar. My favorite instrument that I played some cool instruments, like there's lots of like harmonium on the record. The hammered dulcimer, when the hammered dulcimer shows up, it's really nice. There'll be definitely more of like all of these things on future releases.
Sick.
We played like modular synthesizers.
Yo, let's go.
I played bowed banjo on a lot. Like some of the like string stuff you hear is just like me bowing the banjo.
Oh, nice.
And I also play the saw. I play the musical saw.
You broke out the saw, dude? That's sick.
Yeah, I have it right here, actually.
Some Neutral Milk Hotel stuff.
Yeah. I'm a really big fan, actually. And when I was a kid, I really admired Julian Coaster, and I just was inspired to like learn how to play the saw when I was like 14 years old, because I was obsessed with Neutral Milk Hotel.
Dude, I mean, even like Julian's project, like the music tapes is like incredible. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like great, insane. Great stuff.
I'm still a big fan. I think those projects are fucking awesome. Super unique, great songs. Love them. But yeah, we busted the saw out. I don't know. There's like a bunch of shit. Clint plays a vibraphone.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's definitely like maybe over orchestrated. it's pretty dense. So I can't tell. I don't know. There was like a string quartet played. We rented tubular bells. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Like, I just figured that if we were going to use stuff, then there should be no limit to the kind of instruments you use, you know, even if they're not instruments. Just the sounds and things. Just like, okay, like no more saying no until it's a bad idea. Like just go and do it and fuck it up.
I think I saw on like Instagram or something that you got like a casino or something like that, or what's that, like big hollow body style guitar or something?
Oh, the Gretsch. Yeah, I really like Neil Young, and he plays a guitar called the Gretsch White Falcon.
Oh, okay.
I just thought it was like the baddest fucking guitar, you know, like because Neil Young's his music's occasionally pretty gnarly and, you know, really cool. And I'm a huge fan. So my dad had this picture of Neil Young, and he's playing the White Falcon. And I always wanted that guitar, but it was just like hollow body is just a bad idea for like the volume we play at. We're like a very loud band.
Yeah.
But I just I don't know, like I just said, fuck it. Like, I'm just going to get this guitar. And I did. And actually it's definitely the best guitar I own now. It's like,
nice,
but it's not a White Falcon. It's just, it's a different model. It's just a bunch of letters and numbers. I can't remember which one it is, but I really like it. And it looks like the White Falcon. I just thought it would be cool to like play that. It was purely cosmetic, you know, the impetus was purely cosmetic. Like I was like, okay, it will be a good look to play this really fucked up music with this like kind of rockabilly 50s looking guitar, and they're just really beautiful pieces. And then when I finally tried one out, I had realized that the pickups are so bright, the tone is so bright, and it actually would really work quite well for Sprain.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we pretty much don't play any guitars with humbuckers or like mid, you know, we don't need like mids or lows. Like it's mostly like the lows and the highs are like the big Sprain sound. Like all the mids are scooped. So humbuckers are usually out because they're just too muddy for the like kind of like all the weird chords that we're playing, or chords, you can call them that.
So do you said you can't use like that style guitar like on your music. Can you use it like while recording, or is it just like out pretty much for like live stuff? Or
oh yeah, I forgot to mention. No, we can't. I stuffed it with shirts. I stuffed it with Sprain shirts.
Oh,
we
really?
had this guy who had shirts for us, and he like fucked up about 40 of them and just kind of gave them to me anyway. And it was cool though. He wasn't fucking us over. He was just like, oh, I messed these ones up.
Yeah.
And like this us for them. And so I was like, I don't really feel like selling these to people because they're a little too off centered. So I just fucking stuffed them in the guitar, and now it doesn't feed back. That was a trick someone told me on the internet to try.
Dude, that's sick.
So,
nice. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna play it on the release show.
Oh, sick.
Dude, that's sick. Actually, yeah. Alex, damn, that's cool.
It just sounds much better, you know. I kind of wish we had it when we were recording. It would have been much better sound than like the Jaguar, I think.
Damn, that's awesome.
See that in the future. So, when you did give this album to the Flenser, what did Jonathan think? Was he like, oh, we're doing a double vinyl? Because just no one in recent memory I can think of had done something this like radically, like this is the artistic statement, and dug that deep on a release. There's no other 97-minute thing like this coming out this year. And I give a lot of kudos that Flenser's like, this is a $40 double vinyl. Get it.
Yeah. I said while we were writing the songs, it's like I gave him a call one time and I was like, hey man, like, you know, getting close to wanting to record some of these songs. They're ending up kind of long, you know, like what's your, I was kind of trying to like imply it to him without having to say it. And to my surprise, he agreed to it. He was like, yeah, let's do it. So I was like, oh, okay. Maybe he just felt bad for us because our first release got fucked, you know? But I think that he was like saying yes, and then he would probably try and talk me out of it later if he didn't think that it was like a fully realized project. But like, you know, it very much is. So, you know, I mean, it's another fucking shitty Sprain record, but it is still like it earns it's not long for the sake of being long, right?
Yeah.
And it's not an artistic statement. It's just our second record, but it definitely is like a recentering of the band. It's like, okay, like we know people are going to listen to this one. Try and not let that into our heads. It's all, I kind of consider the record to be like the career suicide record in a way. It won't be, but that's how I like to, you know, yeah.
One thing, at least I noticed that stays somewhat consistent through As Lost Through Collision as much as this here is it comes in the cover or the color palette of the cover art. It's the black and whites, but this time what I like more is you have the 9 images that recall some of those post-hardcore. I'm thinking of Dawn Cab 2. I looked at it, I'm like, oh, sick, it's Dawn Cab 2, but Sprain. But it's it was the movement and performance that came with just the bodies on there. And I was curious about how you all arrived at that cover. Were you looking at more architecture or other kind of aesthetic ephemera before settling on that 9 panel? What sparked that?
There's like this photographer Moybridge who like took these really famous photographs of like horses running like really early on.
Yeah.
And
yes. Yes.
Short there. And right now they've almost been like reappropriated as like wall decor for like cliche like 40-year-old white women. But they're really stellar pictures, and I liked the way. And he has one that's really good called like Woman Filling and Emptying a Bucket of Water. It's really beautiful. It's just like a bunch of series, and they're all arranged like really artfully like that. So I knew I wanted a grid of images. And then I had seen a picture from a magazine of like these 2 men admiring like a piece that this New Zealandic artist Giovanni Intra did. It's like the piece is like a room, and I really liked the photograph that the journalist had taken of. I don't think it's part of the piece. I don't know. I didn't exactly do my research. I just really liked the image I found. But I'm pretty sure the piece is just the room, and then the photograph that I was inspired by was just like 2 guys like in the room like looking at the piece. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, I know I want 2 people facing adjacent walls and adopting these postures. And some of the postures were supposed to imply a certain level of like homosexuality, or like sexuality in general, which is like another theme explored on the record, and like enlightenment, or like being like touched by like some invisible hand.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where that came from. And it's my really good friend Mate is one of the guys. There's 2 guys, believe it or not. It's not edited. There's 2 guys, and one of my friend David from school and Mate. They're very similar in stature.
Yeah.
And when I had David shave his head, they look like twins. So,
quick questions, at least touring wise, specifically, especially for a DIY band like Sprain, touring is the lifeblood to get new listeners in there. And so, at least when you do the tours, do you consistently find yourself coming back with like new listenership, as much as crowds that are also just shocked at what they are seeing?
What's the question?
Oh God. I'm curious though about I guess how to phrase this question is like, in regards to just doing touring kind of 2021 to present, have you noticed that with each tour, what little you do, listenership kind of rises a bit in any case? Like, kind of curious just how you guys feel about touring respectively to get a listener base.
Oh, I mean, that's the way to do it, right? I think most people who are actually, making like some form of like fiscal living off of their music, which is not us. We don't make money. Not even touring, we break even, if it were. So I think that's the way. That's the only way people can really do it. For bands of our ilk.
Yeah.
Is tour a lot. I want to tour more. Everyone wants to tour more, but it's not. It's like everything we do is 100% on our own for the most part. Like Flenser doesn't help out with that.
Yeah.
We've talked about attempting to get an agent, but there's no money in the band. So what's the impetus for the agent?
Yeah, for sure.
What's in it for them? So what that does grant us is the ability to curate everything on our own, which can, is as nice as it is horrible. And I think that when we play, we have the ability to play to a bunch of new people, which is always, and the reaction is always divided. It's one or the other for the most part with this band. On the West Coast, I noticed that the past few shows and tours we've done on the West Coast, like the cat's kind of out of the bag with this band. Like the shows are big. They do really well. People come. Yeah. And it's very gratifying. It's very rewarding, but it's like, okay, well, we've been doing this for 5 years and we've been up and down the coast like, 5 or 6 times. So it's like, it's very good. It's very rewarding. It's also like, we need to go elsewhere.
It's just, it's like, I've heard this with a couple other acts as well. It's like, you're just stuck in like a regional bubble. We've talked to talent in the Midwest who will probably never come out here because there is no viable way to do it. And again, we had a fan from New Zealand asking if there's like a chance to come down to Ocelandia or just go out there. Just hearing all of that, I just know it's like, oh God. But
yeah, I would love to. I mean, people message us and they're like, when's the European tour? And I'm like, first I have to raise $5,000.
Yeah, for sure.
Funding the 2-hour-long record and, going into debt and never eating more than one meal a day to do all that and still not having enough money raised up to even hit most of the places in America. But I think that, it's like, it's more about, like, I can wax poetic all day about how it's too hard, blah, blah, blah. But that's never been our attitude. Like we're going, and doesn't matter if we starve on the road, we'll be there,
Yeah.
And that, because playing music on the road is important to us, and it's not because we're making money. However, the reality of the situation is, if there was money in it, it would be a lot easier to do more regularly. And that's how bands used to do it. Like in the 90s, all the bands, all three of us, like nowadays it's a little bit different. So my answer to all those people is that, it's going to happen. I just don't know when. It may be only once or twice. Who knows? And as far as like those bands in like middle, the Midwest or whatever, they're like, it's also just stupid to come out to the West Coast. Like there's nothing like West Coast is like, there's like, I don't know, like 7 cities that are really playing.
It's fucked up.
They're all like 8 hours apart from each other.
Yeah, for sure.
Like on the East Coast, it's a bit different. That part of the country is much different as far as touring goes, but it's like getting over there is a challenge. So what we've been discussing is how to do that when Lamb comes out and get over to the East Coast, because that's something we really need to do.
Yeah.
And so I think the plan is, and it is tentative because it's so far out, but the plan is to do like big, like 6 weeks next year.
That'd be sick.
Yeah. So I end up like biting my tongue and hitting myself later when it doesn't work out, and I seem like an idiot for proposing it on this interview. But but that's the plan. Everyone wants to do it. We're all committed to doing it, and we're just in the process of booking it. If you can help and you're listening to this, please reach out, because we're doing this all on our own. And I think there's an illusion that a lot of people have about band who's signed to a label has all of these things.
Yeah.
I think that's that's not always the case, and it's no one's fault. It's not something to be upset with anyone over, but it's just like, there's only so many resources that anyone has. So we are our own resource at this point.
And Like, again, I remember like in 2021, it was Joe from Dummy just brazenly on Twitter, just asking like, can I just get a place to stay? Anybody got, and like forcibly using Twitter to book a DIY tour and get housing for the band consistently. And it's like, that's hard to pull off. That's hard to do. But also,
if I only knew that guy from Twitter, I'd never let him stay in my house.
That's right, though.
Yeah.
But
He's a nice guy. He's a real nice guy in person, but on Twitter, it's like, oh gosh, like
one thing.
His Twitter is unhinged.
Strong opinion.
Very strong opinions, but also he has said thank you, Sprain, on that Sub Pop single, and I really do like that Sub Pop single.
Oh yeah, Joe is a real artist. He's a real musician. He really he really sticks up for the underdogs, you know. Like I have endless respect for him and Dummy, and they're also our friends. I mean, April even lived with Nate for a while. Yeah. So yeah, Dummy is really cool. I'm a fan. I got nothing but nice things to say.
That's one thing I would say. They win people over. What I love about their band is that they do win people over in a live show. I had a friend who had not heard of them. Like, you need to come out and see this just because if you like Stereolab or you just like psych rock, you just need to hear this to believe it. And he totally also loved that they were doing the being in a band is not fun. And that was like, that was tied to mandatory enjoyment and all the stuff. And he just bought a shirt and they had a killer show. That was the thing. I listened to songs. I'm like, yes, I can tell what you're referencing because you've been aggressive on Twitter about saying this, Joe, but your Seafield tribute is pretty good. Hate to say it. You did it again. Like, they win me over every time they do a live show.
Yeah. Yeah. I just hope that Joe watches this and makes it through and has a little laugh. Joe, if you're watching this, I'm just teasing you. But to be honest, I'm not very active on Twitter or whatever. I'm not really other than having to go on there and be like, yes, we have a song coming out.
Yeah.
But that's the same way I would do it. Like, just using the internet. I think back in the day, they were just getting people's numbers and calling them. It's basically
the
same. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, same thing.
The whole kind of 90s DIY playbook of it's like the book your own fucking life and those websites.
Yeah,
that architecture is still out there, but it's outdated. But those exist. It does what you're bringing up here, because this is really the final thing we needed to get to before the fan question is. I do remember in 2020, it was dead ass in pandemic on Facebook on Patricia Music chart posting, one of the worst Facebook groups to do it. And I remember because I was there too. And I'm so glad that page got destroyed, but God, what a terrible group. Because that's maybe why you don't want to talk about music online as much as it brings you in and then it repels you away. And I'm curious, just like you mentioned in the past 3 years, how has really your relationship talking music online changed? Are you at a point where you're just nope?
Well, I think when I was doing whatever you were talking about, I don't even remember that. It must have been 19, 20. Mm-hmm. I must have been still a kid, basically. The way it's changed now is that I don't.
Yeah.
I don't talk about it because the people who talk about it all the time are really fucking annoying and also just make me feel bad about myself. I think it's important when you're trying to be creative and make music and stuff not to get too wrapped up in the way people online, because it can be really then most of the time it's just people really appreciating stuff and being happy, and the internet can be a very powerful tool for contributing to your artistry. But I think for me it was just I had to get away from that, and now I kind of detest it a little bit because it just for many reasons I just am not involved. I try and keep to myself, but I do still use the internet to find music. And I still think the best way to find music is by letting your friend tell you about it, and then you're like, oh yeah, this is really awesome.
Yeah, but for sure.
Find music through the internet all the time. So
oh yeah,
tight.
Yeah, well, you don't have to be a really annoying fucking asshole online to find it.
Yeah,
you just happen to.
Well, anyways, I guess that kind of brings us to our mailbox here. Our listener.
We got a big mail stack.
Yeah, we got a lot of letters in the mailbox. And last I checked, a couple more came in.
Oh my God.
So, anyways, this first one says, well, are you ready, Alex?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Mhm.
All right. Well, anyways, this first one says, August asks, should I move to Idaho?
No.
Fantastic. Don't do it, August.
Yeah. Don't do it, August.
Don't do it.
Why not?
Well, because I know August and I know what they want to do with their lives, and it would not happen in Idaho. You could move to Idaho to be a part of very beautiful surroundings, but very ugly politics.
Mm.
You know, very ugly.
Yeah.
And I think for that reason, it can be a very repellent place. Although I know a lot of great people in Idaho. I have friends there. You know, I don't want to overgeneralize, but you know, it's just it can be very. It's if you're into the kind of things we're into, it's not the kind of place I would recommend someone to.
But built to spill.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's always the exception, right?
Yeah. Shout out to Built to Spill. Do those dudes still live in Idaho and Boise, or is that like not?
Yeah. My friends have a practice space with Doug.
Oh, really? That's crazy.
I thought he had moved out, but I do remember for the last Sub Pop album, he did rent a bench. There was like an actual bench with Doug's face on there for their 2020 album, which was really.
I remember that too. Yeah, that was awesome. No, he. I actually think that if I can remember correctly, I think that I might be making this up, but I'm pretty sure that last time I talked to my buddy who had rented the space with him, I think an angry third member of the rental agreement got really pissed off at Built to Spill because they would smoke too much weed in the practice.
Really?
He kicked them out for that reason.
That's honestly kind of sick.
I don't know. It's Idaho, you know. So, yeah.
That's funny. All right. Well, so this next one says, what's your favorite animal and why? And then we also had another one that's along the same lines. What's the best kind of horse?
Oh, yeah. My favorite animal is the frog. It's been my number one.
I honestly would have assumed it was a chicken because I feel like you were pretty into those for a while.
That's my favorite.
For sure.
Yeah, chicken. Well, actually, never mind. My favorite my favorite horse is probably the Appaloosa horse. It's the Idaho state horse. It's like a beautiful painted horse. It's just the coolest horse. Yeah, beautiful horse.
Wow.
Hell yeah, dude. How do you know so much about horses, Alex?
Man,
I worked on ranches.
What was that?
I worked on ranches.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, that's sick. So do you know how to ride a horse?
Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
I do. I'm no good, but I know how to ride them. You know? Yeah, and take care of them. Yeah. The ranch I worked on had I think she had 6 or 7 horses and a bunch of donkeys. It wasn't a particularly big one, but I worked on there.
That's so sick.
Yeah, that's cool. Best horse to ride is this horse called a Tennessee Walker because they walk. I think most horses walk right one, left one, back right 2, left 2. But I think the Tennessee Walkers walk left 1, left 2, right 1, right 2. They walk like spiders almost. And it's like old people will ride them a lot because they're much more comfortable for them.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, I think I'm getting the way they're walking wrong. I forget how it is, but it's been a while.
Something interesting though that makes them more comfortable to ride.
Yeah.
That's dope, dude. Okay, so this next one is do you like Slint, and who are your favorite bands or artists to dunk on?
Yes, they're good.
Oh yeah, there we go, baby.
Yeah.
We got our Tweez cassette here. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, people always compare us, or like any band that is like has a dissonant chord in it, to Slint.
Yeah, dude, so funny.
Like, I stopped taking offense to it because I was like, oh, it's just like usually people just don't know about like the thousands of other bands that came before or during that era, but whatever.
For sure.
But yeah, they're good. I like them. They're really good. Yeah. Listened to them a bit when I was in high school. I haven't listened to it in a while. Maybe I should listen to Slint again. Kyle Bates from Drowse has a Slint tattoo.
Oh, really? That's sick.
He's got like an octopus. Like it's like this little octopus drawing the heaven, one of their records.
Oh, nice.
Pretty
Is
cool.
it the spider? That would be funny if it's the spider. I can't recall there ever being, or unless it's something from Tweez.
Yeah, maybe it's something from Tweez, or I don't know. But
there's the
my favorite bands to dunk on. I have it's not polite. It's not polite to dunk on band interview. Plus, I'm a very sensitive man, and if I saw someone dunking on my band, I would probably cry for 2 weeks. So
that's beautiful.
We'll avoid that one. It's not polite.
For sure.
Support people and keep your hating to a minimum. And that is coming from me, a big hater.
Huge.
Like, I don't care about other people's opinions. When they say mean things about me, it usually does hurt my feelings, but that's because I'm a huge bitch. I'm just sucking cocks all day. So, but yeah, I won't answer that question.
For sure. All right. So, all right. This next one says, do you have a high quality version of when you played We Think So Ill of You at Alex's?
At Alex's bar?
I have no idea what they're talking about. What they're referencing.
That must be it. We
Maybe
Think So
Alex's
Ill
bar?
of You.
They're actually, I think, someone sent me a video because they had said they were like, this person uploaded new songs of yours. Do you want me to flag it? And I was like, no, it's fine. I think there is a video of that whole show. I don't know if it's high quality. I haven't watched it, but the song's out. Why do you need a video?
Yeah. Just listen to the record, dude.
Yeah. The record's out, dude. Just listen now.
Just listen.
Yeah. No, that's flattering. I don't think so. No, sorry.
All right. So this next one says, are you afraid or more like fascinated by the so-called sex chicken?
That's actually a mate question, believe it or not. Is that mate? Can you see who?
Yeah, that was mate. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. I'm afraid of it. Really afraid of it.
Why?
I fear it greatly.
Why do you fear the sex chicken?
I fear it because in theory, it's horrifying, even if it doesn't exist. And when we play jokes on each other regarding the sex chicken, you guys are humiliating me. I showed up on this interview. I'm a very serious artist, and everyone's just like, oh, what's the sex? How big is your dick? What's the sex chicken?
Should have been a colored shirt, was coming beyond hatred, trying to extend olive branches. It's like, hey, what's your pee-pee like?
The sex chicken, whenever we joke about it, we use jokes, we always imply that something is up, like something really dark needs to be discussed, something very serious.
Yeah.
And we like to lead each other on for extended periods of time and be like, I really have to talk to you later. Like it's really bad. And then when the person's finally like actually concerned, you reveal to them that the sex chicken is out. It's like super low hanging fruit. It's a horrible joke. Yeah, let's move on.
Okay, so this next one says, which track was hardest to write?
Lyrics 4.
Oh, Lyrics 4. Sorry, I didn't see that part.
On the Lamb?
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
I mean, writing lyrics is really hard. I think the two that took me the longest are, so I labored over Man Proposes for a while. Then I also labored over the second track, Reiterations, and something we put out today, We Think So Ill of You. And they're all very wordy and they're very intentional. But the way I'm kind of singing those songs made it so that I could basically write like any amount of words and kind of like make it work. It was more like free verse.
Yeah.
And I think that there's one song that has like very strict, I'm not sure what the right word is, pentameter or whatever. And very strict rhythm that I had to sing to. It's called Margin for Error. It's one of the longer tracks.
Yeah.
And I think that one was the hardest because I had to cram. I wanted to say a lot with it.
Yeah.
And I had very little to, at least the way I had like decided I was going to do it. I think that if I, looking back on it now, I could have just thrown all that to the wind and done whatever, and it probably would have been even better. But I, for whatever reason, have committed to this one thing, and it was difficult because it was like all of a sudden all the freedom was taken away, and like I also felt like that song is really intense and like there's a certain mood to it, so I had to really commit and like make sure that what was getting written counted.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, dude. So this next one says, does Alex believe in spooky, scary ghosts?
No.
There we go.
Respect.
Sorry, ghost hunters. You're not getting Alex today.
Yeah.
Come on.
So you don't.
I would like to. Or I guess I don't know. I can never be. I don't know anything, so I'm not entirely sure. Nothing's black and white, right? I'm very skeptical. 99% skeptical.
That's kind of how I am too, where I'm just like, I don't know. How do you feel about like the alien things, like all that stuff that's like being talked about right now?
I don't know. Like it's another thing where it's like, it's so vast that like my mind is too minuscule and pathetic to like really have like a, like why does my opinion matter? And it could be real. It could be a psyop. Who knows? I don't know. I don't want to sound like a fucking conspiracy theorist. But I'm also like, what do I believe anything? I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. And I'm not like a smart man, so I can't make like, any educated guesses or hypotheses, of any substance.
Yeah.
That's my answer. I don't know.
That's fair.
Here's a question you might know the answer to, though, which is how do you preserve your voice specifically in between live sets? There's a lot of yelling, a lot of action on stage. How do you keep the voice going?
Well, like you just kind of learn to not shred it. Like the way I sing might sound like it was like kind of fucking my voice up, and maybe it is to a certain extent, but like it's not. Like there's I've never done any long-term damage to it. I think I just kind of like figured out ways to do it without it hurting, because I never did vocal lessons or anything.
Yeah.
So I could make the same sounds without it hurting. A lot of it comes from like down here, I can't really describe it, but I think from like the diaphragm.
That was what I was going to say. It sounded also like during the interview, you do a lot of diaphragm speaking.
Yeah.
Diaphragm speaking? Okay, great.
That is a bad thing. I did 4 years of drama, and speak from your diaphragm was like, that was built in, and they're just little mulch. I can tell I'm like, that person enunciates and can talk in such a way. They got that lesson too.
Yeah. Well, I guess I wasn't totally conscious of that, but yeah, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Announcing the words. Yeah. Enunciating. Just don't shred your vocals. You can still make the sounds with your throat, with your diaphragm. You just have to switch it around a little bit. That's what I do. Yeah.
Sick. All right, so this one right here, it says favorite dessert.
Favorite dessert, tiramisu.
Whoa,
That's a classic.
Yeah, I stuck my nose up at it once at a party, and someone made me have it, and I was like, "Oh, this is really fucking good."
Actually, like really dank.
Like culinarily, I'm very ignorant. Like I don't know much. I haven't had much. I would like to have more, but I also I can't afford dessert. I can barely afford to eat as it is, so I just I would say that, but I've only had one that someone bought from like a Costco or something.
Yeah.
Good enough for me.
Yeah, for sure.
But probably not one of the, elaborately arranged or concocted tiramisus out there.
Like you're going to like a fancy Italian restaurant type place. It's like, that's like, not what we're going for. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your like go-to meal when you're like on the budget? Like what are you usually having at night when you get home from work? A nice long day. Like what's your like, all right.
On the budget, so I chop up a bunch of fucking grilled chicken and I take a handful of arugula and I throw it in the bowl, olive oil, salt and pepper.
God damn.
That's it. Yeah.
That sounds
I really like
good.
arugula. I like lettuce a lot. I don't know. I just always have. And vegetables, I eat a lot of vegetables too. Like anything that has a pretty long shelf life, that's like a good snack.
Yeah.
But yeah, lots of lettuce and protein. That's it.
Dope, dude.
Super, survivalist. Yeah, rustic.
So, if you have people over and you're gonna cook them a dinner, do you just throw together a little extra arugula and some grilled chicken? You're like, this is welcome to Kent's kitchen. This is what you get.
No one goes over to my house to eat because they know that it's just gonna be this survivalist meal. No one wants that. So. Yeah, on the rare chance that people come over to my house, we usually do a lot more drinking than eating.
Dope.
You get the bread and the drink. Don't worry.
Exactly.
Yeah. Bread in every bottle.
Actually, me and August were laughing the other day because he had come and stayed with me, and he's like a chef at kind of a pretty prestigious Portland Italian restaurant.
Yeah,
and I gave him a sausage and a piece of bread, for dinner.
That is so night. Funny.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the money to spend. I'm too busy, trying to make music.
Yeah, fair.
Have the money to spend on good food, and I'm not a talented chef, so I'm not going to pretend like I am something I'm not.
Hey, well, the arugula and grilled chicken gets the job done. You know what I mean?
100%.
All right. Well, someone just a question that I just got on the Instagram, but it says thoughts on Palestine.
Thoughts on Palestine. I mean, free Palestine.
Yeah.
That's the answer. Yeah.
For sure.
Man, the situation bums me out.
Yeah.
Well,
it just bums me out.
Yeah, it's horrific.
It's fucked up.
Modern day genocide.
Straight up.
Of which many are happening around the world. So it's also important to remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got war crimes in Texas. Just before I logged on, I was reading my Charlie Pierce Esquire politics stuff. I get his little newsletter in my inbox, and I did not realize that they had set up buoys or BUOYS at the Rio Grande, and people are dying. We're getting stuck. That's a war crime. Yeah,
That's insane. I didn't know that.
The military industrial complex is among world's truly great evils.
100% it is, yeah.
It's important to remember not to point your finger too much at other countries when you live in the most
evil,
most dangerous.
Yeah,
evil,
for sure.
Military superpower in the entire world. So that's what I would say. Those are my thoughts. Fuck that person who did that question. What are you trying to trying to make me nervous?
Yeah, right.
We need the guy who would randomly send us questions of whatever music controversy was happening that week. It's thoughts on Phoebe Bridgers on SNL or thoughts of Neil Young taking his music off Spotify. It's why are you even asking?
Yeah, dude, that was hilarious though. For a little bit, we were getting those. What was one that I asked? I forget what it was. that someone like sent, and it was just like, what the hell?
We got the Neil. It was happening in winter of 2022, and so we got the Neil Young one. I remember that distinctly. I'm like, this doesn't apply, but okay, let's just ask.
Didn't we also get like the Steve Albini like controversy or something too?
Well, that one came up naturally though with Jake.
Oh, okay, for sure.
You brought that one up, and Jake Acosta had a critically good response to that. About, I remember because when I was editing that video and listening, he's like, I don't ever like Steve Albini made a great point. You don't ever want to be in the same room and have to play with these guys. It was so good. I'll be in the shower sometimes, and I just think of that. I'm like, damn, Jake was right.
All right. Well, we have one more question here. Do you want to take it, Maddie?
I'll do it this time.
Yeah, do it.
Alex, this one's really big. So buckle up
the
here.
Rat.
How'd you know? Damn, you right. You kicked the door open. You're making your chicken in arugula, and a white lab rat was in the arugula. He's just kind of gnawing on. He doesn't really mind. He just wants to keep gnawing, but you poke him, and he's like, well, I'm going to jump in your mouth. He even says that to you. Head or butt and why?
Yeah. I have to go with the head. I've thought about this question. I knew that eventually at some point, because I've been a fan of the show for a while, that at some point I knew you guys were going to have me back on. I figured it would be close to release time.
Hell yeah.
And yeah. And so I've been thinking about it a lot, actually for months, to be honest, because I know Thomas is going to have me on the show. But
beautiful. I
think I would want to avoid the primary intestinal tract of the rat and the stomach.
Yeah.
I think you'd probably end up getting really sick either way, but it's about as bad both ways, but I just like something about a rat's ass just seems so filthy that I would have to eat it. And also I feel like that would be probably the smaller half, maybe it wouldn't be. I'm not sure. It's a very difficult question.
Yeah, it definitely is too.
I still have not been able to formulate an appropriate answer. I would say head first, also because I'm just a brutal guy, and I would want to rip that motherfucker in half.
Yeah,
bite his head down.
Yeah,
make his brain squirt through my teeth.
That was sick.
That was pretty gnarly. We got some good gore in that answer.
Also, yeah, for sure, the gore is dope, and then also people don't realize, but rats have huge balls too. So it's you got to take that into consideration when you take it from the back too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that kind of changes things. I might be more interested in the back after hearing that.
Oh yeah, dude.
Of the rat.
I was not aware that this white lab rat had not been neutered. But
yeah,
that's in the book.
It changes everything because I'm trying to get at that. So
yeah, for sure. Say it again, Alex.
What was Jonathan's response to this question?
Shoot, I forgot. One of my favorite answers was Henry from Amps for Christ, because he said that he would take it butt first and slurp the tail down like spaghetti.
Always been a classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a fucked up dude, right?
Yeah, for real. All
right, guys. Well, I got to head off to rehearsal. But
hell yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Alex. That was sick.
Thank you for coming through.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
And that's all we have for today. Thanks for tuning into TBD on KCSB FM 91.9 every Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. and NetNet Radio every Wednesday at 7. This has been Alex Kent. Thanks again, Alex.